Sriram, because many people say that, the misadventures of the US towards the Middle East is actually what gave Beijing so much time to consolidate. How true are we in judging the situation like that? And what about the new world order today that is building up?
Yeah, I think Deepthi, definitely the diversion to Iraq that the US made in 2003 was a fatal one. And they got embroiled in these conflicts, these endless kind of like quagmires. And the kind of forces they deployed and the entire strategic thinking was around this counterterrorism and containing terrorism. Of course, it is a threat, and like panelists are saying, it needs to be forcefully challenged and suppressed. But I think what it did was the Chinese call this the zone of anarchy. Middle East, Central Asia, all these regions, and North Africa, the Islamic world. So they always wanted the US to be in this zone of anarchy or disorder. And then the Chinese will say that on the other side, in the Pacific and in Asia and in the rest of this region, we will build order, a Sino-centric order. So definitely the American preoccupation with the war on terror did divert them from the rising challenge of China. China basically crept up stealthily to match the US on all parameters, military, economic, and other soft power means, while the US was heavily preoccupied with these forever wars. So to that extent, the Chinese did not actually even want the US to leave Afghanistan. They were saying it's hasty. Even now, 20 years later, they were saying it's hasty. They are just leaving in without stabilizing the situation and all that. Some of it, of course, is legitimate criticism, but behind this is the Chinese belief that if the US is trapped in this Islamic world with jihad and countering it endlessly, then we will have a free pass. Then we are going to have less pressure in the maritime domain in Indo-Pacific and in Asia. So to that extent, I think there is this contrast. Biden is now saying that we are going to pull out of these regions, Middle East and Central Asia and South Asia, and refocus all our energies on the Pacific, where the Chinese are getting more and more aggressive and expansionist. So China itself is not making a big contribution to countering terrorism. It wants the US to keep on doing that while China builds its forces and its strength to overtake the US ultimately. So I think there is a clear understanding now in Washington also that they have to change track. But I don't think that they should change track so much that they're completely ignoring the terrorist problem. Yes, China is the number one geopolitical challenge to the US, is the number one contender to overtake the US in world power rankings. The kind of economic might China has accumulated, the kind of military build-up it is doing, artificial islands, bullying smaller countries. Definitely China is a classic conventional great power that wants to become number one. But I would say that if they completely leave this so-called zone of disorder or anarchy, then it will come back to haunt the US, because all it takes is one attack on a US embassy or a diplomat or a citizen. If not in the US homeland, which seems to be relatively protected right now, there may not be a 9/11 type of massive attack on the US homeland, but American interests, American assets are all over this region, and they have huge stakes and military bases and presence in the Middle East, in Central Asia and South Asia. So I think they are going to regret if they completely abandon this cause. So I would suggest that the US policy going forward should be, yes, concentrate on China. We also want them to concentrate on China. We also want them to keep the Chinese under check.
Yes.
But at the same time, make sure that you are contributing collectively. In the past, it was all unilateral, US-led, US-led, US-led. And like you're saying, the other countries in the region have been impacted severely by their mistakes. So now the US should be a group player, a team player. It should contribute, and that is the ultimate way it can compensate for the mistakes it committed after 9/11 under the war on terror.
But Sriram, I don't know why I get a feeling that America, in fact, is becoming more isolationist. Is that the kind of policy or, the outlook that the US is now taking, taking policy decisions in isolation? But that's going to be one more fascinating topic of discussion.